Yo, what's going on, everyone? It's the Casual Cube over here, and today we're going to be talking about the Planeswalker Deck Challenge. Now, today is Saturday, so it is after Friday Night Magic, and I did take the Planeswalker Deck, swapped out a bunch of cards, and took it to my FNM, and I did go 2-2. I got the first round bye, though, so it doesn't really count, and I also faced a week-old brand-new player, so I'm not really satisfied as far as my result, even though my DCI does show 2-2 as far as yesterday is concerned, but, it's not really fulfilling to not only get the win, but also, not only get the win against a brand-new player, but also get the win for a bye. So I'm going to be doing the Planeswalker Deck Challenge for Raw again. I have other decks lined up for the future weeks. I'm going to be bringing, decks to FNM. But, I definitely want to kind of try again, if you will, with the Raw Planeswalker deck, try and do it legitimately. But, that's, I think, like week number 9 or so. I don't know. I'll check what my calendar was looking like. I have it kind of written down on my phone. But as far as what the Planeswalker Deck Challenge is, the idea is to take a Planeswalker deck, and we're kind of trying to simulate being a brand new player to the game. So if you're brand new to the game and you bought into a Planeswalker deck, maybe your friends got you into it, the idea is to kind of simulate that experience. So it's just like a challenge. Like I said, we're taking a Planeswalker deck, which is designed to be a beginner experience, to try and make it FNM viable. Now, FNM viable is not trying to be competitive. I'm just trying to go. The goal is to go 2 wins and 2 losses. So, going to 50-50, and we want to keep it budget. So we're not going to go top tier deck to $100+ deck and really try and go tier 1. We're going to try and go with this challenge of being a budget beginner player, or at least try to simulate that. So the Planeswalker decks, the MSRP for them is about $15 US, and we're going to try to keep the upgrades to about $5 to $10. Now, there's already been another YouTuber by the name of Affinity for MTG, which I really enjoy his content as far as casual, kitchen table magic. He has videos on upgrading. Well, he has a bunch of budget videos of, budget upgrades, but the videos that I really like to watch from his channel are he takes these Planeswalker decks and tries to upgrade them on a budget, and I think that's really awesome. I would highly encourage you to check out his videos, but he already did kind of what we're doing right here, is to, I don't know if he took it to an FNM, but for me, I'm trying to actually, which I did take it to an FNM yesterday, but that's kind of the idea of the Planeswalker Deck Challenge, is to not only upgrade the deck, take out all these unplayables, and actually try and be viable. Not competitive, but viable. So viable means, like, at least get 2 wins, 2 losses. I think that's fair. I think that'd be a good, starting point as far as, your first FNM, and having a good experience. You didn't lose all your games. Go 2 wins and 2 losses. That's that feels pretty good, right? As far as being a brand new player. Yeah, like as far as these Planeswalker decks, I really love these products because they're designed to be casual products. I understand that, but at the same time, I really like the fact that after all of this is all said and done, you swap them out. You can have this little casual deck on your shelf, and anytime you have friends coming over, or you're going to a friend's house and there's someone who has never played Magic, and you guys want to play Magic, along with board games or whatever, it's just a great off-the-shelf product where you can just say, hey, I'm going to teach you how to play Magic, and which one do you want? Do you want the Mage? Do you want the Warrior? Do you want the Archer or something like that? I'm trying to collect, different, styles of Planeswalker decks, but in this case, obviously, Raw is kind of like the Wizard Mage kind of style with the Izzet colors, blue and red. So, I want to have something for everyone where I'm teaching them, and they can choose which ones they like just from off the Planeswalker that is kind of like the icon of the deck. So, in this case, though, if we're actually looking at the exclusive unique cards, we have Raw Caller of Storms, obviously over here. He's strictly worse than his counterpart in if you actually open Guilds of Ravnica booster packs, he's strictly worse than the Raw in there. But he's, as far as Planeswalker deck, casual kitchen table meta is concerned, if we're going against another Planeswalker deck, I think Raw Caller of Storms is actually really good because he can affect the board state with his -2. And he has that built-in draw engine, so I think that's pretty awesome as far as Planeswalker deck levels are concerned. Now, he does come in with that 4 loyalty, but still, I think he's pretty cool as far as, power level, as far as the kitchen table meta. But now, obviously, if we're trying to take this to an FNM standard, constructed event, he's definitely weaker, and that's kind of the part of the challenge, is we're trying to, simulate this beginner experience and kind of, I guess, trying to make the best of what we got on a budget, and Rawl's Dispersal over here, it's his tutor card. Now, if you don't know, Planeswalker decks typically have a tutor card, and if you don't know what a tutor card is, it's essentially just trying to take a card from your deck and put it into your hand. Now, that's pretty powerful, right? If you can take any card into your deck, into your hand at any moment, that's pretty awesome. In this case, with Rawl's Dispersal, we can only get Raw Color of Storm, so we can't get any other Rawls. So if you have another Raw Planeswalker, it doesn't work. But, we're still going to play with, Raw Color of Storms as well as his 2 Rawl's Dispersals. Even though Rawl's Dispersal is a 5-mana bounce effect, which is not that good, really with your 5-mana spells, you really want to be killing creatures as opposed to just returning them to your hand. But it is instant. 5 mana is pretty hefty, but as far as the spirit of the challenge, we're going to keep these 3 cards just so we can have Raw as well as his tutor cards. But now over here on the right with the Precision Bolt as well as the Raw Static Caster, we're going to have to take them out. Now, the reason being for Precision Bolt is that it's a strictly worse version of Lightning Strike. Now, Precision Bolt is a 3-mana sorcery speed, deal 3 damage to any target. Lightning Strike, on the other hand, is a 2-mana instant speed, deal 3 damage to any target. So we obviously need to swap these out for the Lightning Strikes. And Raw Static Caster, I like the design of this card, except for the fact that, you have to control a Raw Planeswalker. Now, the reason why I don't like that is because, as far as consistency is concerned, as far as strategy, we have to have Raw on the battlefield as well as having Raw Static Caster, as well as having a bunch of cards in our hand. It's just too much going on to have this card be really effective. So we're going to have to take him out, even though I really like the design of the card, because it's kind of like a control style effect where you're trying to accumulate card advantage. And, Raw Static Caster, just imagine having 7 cards in your hand and you attack and it becomes a 10-3 trampler, so it's kind of cute as far as design, but I think it's just a little too much. So we're going to have to take him out, but I do love the art. It's a Viashino wizard too, so that's pretty cool. The Viashino, by the way, are kind of like these dinosaur lizard guys, but, I digress. But as far as the mana curve, if you look over here, it's kind of a mid-range. We're going 3, 4 mana, 5 mana plays, a little bit of 2 drops, but, the land base, 26 lands, we might have to chop that out. 26 lands is really good if you're building a control deck, so if we had, if you were to actually look at the mana curves of control decks, they would kind of be, well, I guess they're all different, but, so maybe that's not a good example, but, control decks have, they have in-game plays, they have some early game plays, they're trying to accumulate card advantage, whereas if you go with an aggro deck, they're going to have a lot more 1-drops and 2-drops, and, you can chop down the 26 lands down to about 22, maybe even down to 20, and if you're really, really heavy on 1-drops, you can even go down to even 19 or 18, like a modern deck or whatever, but that's a crazy fast-paced format, so we're probably going to chop it. I think last night for Friday Night Magic, I'll show you my list, by the way, that I used. It was kind of a Wizards deck, but I went down to 22 lands. But yeah, we'll take a look at my list later on. But we're gonna look at the actual default list of cards that you get with the Planeswalker deck. So in this case, as far as our 2-mana plays, nothing really special here. The Passable Adept is kind of playable. It's a 1/3 body, and it has a relevant effect. A target creature can't be blocked this turn, so maybe later in the game there's a board stall, and you can get through with damage, but I think this is mainly a card that's going to be used in drafts. Vidalcan Mesmerist is another card that kind of an aggro style, where if you flood the board, you have a bunch of Vidalcan Mesmerist, where target creature an opponent controls gets -2 power, so you can negate their blockers essentially, which is pretty nice. But it does have that 1 toughness, and at least at my local game store for Friday Night Magic, there is a there are some mono red players, and Goblin Chain Whirler is a thing. And if you don't know what Goblin Chain Whirler is, anytime it enters the battlefield, it deals 1 damage to each of your opponent's creatures, as well as 1 damage to the opponent's face. And Vidalcan Mesmerist is not going to be good against that. Now, with that being said, it's still kind of playable. It's a 2-mana, 2-power creature. Fire Urchin, on the other hand, is, I think, a little bit too much going on in this card, even though it does have Trample. Trample is not effective on a 1-power body, and it's too reliant on having a bunch of spells. So, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just, I think that it's just too much to make this card really good, Fire Urchin. You know, you have this idea of having a bunch of spells, using them all, but after you use all your spells, you're kind of empty-handed, so it kind of loses effect. So I don't know, we're gonna have to take them out. Goblin Electromancer, on the other hand, it's probably the most playable of all of these 2-mana plays. You know, the fact that you get reduced mana cost is almost always relevant. Taking your 4-mana plays, like Chemist's Insight, for instance, taking it down to 3 mana, you know, that's always going to be relevant. Ramping, Llanowar Elves, anything that can generate additional mana before the intended cost is always going to be valuable in Magic the Gathering, because it's, you know, you're bringing in more power or more powerful effects earlier in the game. You can play them sooner. So really like Goblin Electromancer. Glad we got 2 of them in here. As far as the 3-mana creatures, Weed Dragonauts is kind of interesting. I think you'd rather have Adelies, and that's kind of what I've built around on my, Wizards deck that I use for FNM. Weed Dragonauts, though, does have the Flying Evasion, but again, it has that Fire Urchin effect where it's really reliant on spells, on instants and sorceries particularly, after you empty out your hand, it just becomes a 1/3 flyer for 3 mana. So a little bit too much going on in there. Even though you have this idea of going crazy big with it, maybe you can bring it up to 5 power. So Leapfrog over here, it's mainly a draft card. Fearless Halberdier, a 3/2 vanilla creature. We're gonna have to scrap that because there's nothing going on in that 3-mana play. Erratic Cyclops over here. Really love the Erratic Cyclops. It's one of the rares that we get, but it's just too much to build around. Maybe it's good in a control style of a deck, but maybe I'll make a list. I do have some brews with Erratic Cyclops, just for fun jank that I'm just have it on my notepad or whatever. But as far as on an FNM level, there's just so much removal, so even if you do pull off the crazy strategy with an Apex of Power, for instance, where it's a 10-mana play, and Erratic Cyclops all of a sudden gets 10 power, then you get hit with a Seal Away or a Settle the Wreckage or some kind of removal or something crazy. So a lot of combo potential, but again, it might be a little bit too much going on. Muse Drake and Rebel Belt Boar over here, they're mainly draft cards. Just not really good cards in a constructed format, simply because there are better budget options in the 4-mana play. And like I said, with Raw Staticaster, a little bit too much as far as consistency. We need to have the Raw out there on the battlefield, so we're going to take them out. Omnispell Adept, again, with the Erratic Cyclops, it's kind of a build-around where you have these big plays, Apex of Power, any kind of high mana cost plays, but again, it's just a little bit too much build around, I think, even though I think it'd be sweet to build that kind of deck. So Hellkite Whelp over here is mainly a draft card. For a 5-mana creature, you want more than 3/3 body, even though it does have flying, and anytime it attacks, it can affect the board state, but I don't know, it's just a little bit too weak for my taste. I think it's mainly a draft card. But as far as non-creature spells over here, Maximize Altitude. I love Jumpstart effects, especially with a card like Adelies, which I'll show you, which I used for my FNM. And anything where it relies on a spell proc, where you get additional bonuses, power, toughness, casting a spell. Anything with Jumpstart, you automatically get kind of 2 spells in one, and that's good value because you can discard a land that you don't need later on in the game. Like those Jumpstart cards like Direct Current, Sonic Assault, Precision Bolt over here we're going to have to take out for Lightning Strikes, which I did for last night. Chemist's Insight is a great card, mainly a card that you see in control builds because it's kind of a card advantage card where you do have to spend the 8 mana and discard 1 card, but you are churning through your deck, so you're discarding cards that you don't need and getting to the cards that you do. Raw's Dispersal will keep as far as the Spirit of the Planeswalker Deck challenge, keep the Tutor card as well as the Planeswalker. Command the Storm over here, we're going to take out Command the Storm because that's mainly a draft card. It's just, for 5 mana plays, you want some serious effects as far as constructed FNM standard. 5 damage to target creature, it's just, it's a little bit too weak. Maybe if it was 5 mana deal, 5 damage to any target, maybe we would keep it, but I don't know. I think we're going to have to take that one out. And the big guy himself, keep Raw Call of Storms because that is the Spirit of the Planeswalker Deck challenge. We're going to keep him. Land base is 26. We're going to maybe chop it down to include some other stuff. But my Wizards deck that I'll show you the list. It was curved a little bit differently than this deck. So now, as far as how to rebuild, now there's a lot of ways that we can go with blue and red. now the most conservative version, the decks that we're seeing as far as the standard meta is it Drakes, even with Arc like Phoenix, for instance. You know, I guess there's different ways to build it, but you know there are budget is it Drakes that you can build, like I said, there's already been Affinity for MTG on YouTube who has a budget upgrade version. I think at the time it was about $5 in upgrades, but he did have some lava coils in there, so maybe the cost is about, you know, $5 to $7, maybe even $8 now. But as far as Izzet Drakes though, it's easily a good budget option if you want to go, if you really truly want to win, is to go Drakes. Just because, you know, you have the Izzet flavor of having a bunch of spells in your graveyard. You're using the spells, they end up in your graveyard. You know, the jumpstart cards get exiled, so Crackling Drake becomes, you know, better as well, even though, you know, Enemy Drake only considers your graveyard, but still. Both of these cards are great, and that's probably the best way to build the deck. And, you know, I might throw a list, even though Affinity for MTG already has an improved version, or a budget Izzet Drakes version for the deck, so that's the reason why I went with Izzet Mages, because, you know, I just wanted to do something a little different, and also I think Mages are kind of long forgotten, so that's why I wanted to bring them back as far as my FNM. And, you know, Izzet Mages, they're tribal, it's a tribal deck, so we're trying to utilize these effects of, you know, all of your other wizards get +1/+1, and, you know, I think it's just kind of cool, especially with Raw. You know, we have a bunch of wizards, and it's just, I don't know, it's very flavorful for me. So, you know, after all this is all said and done, you know, off the shelf, I'm gonna have a wizards tribal deck along with Raw, so anytime anyone is feeling, you know, like a wizard, they can play Izzet Mages, so, or Izzet Wizards. Maybe I should have not had mages and put wizards there. But anyways, also, if you want to go crazy, like I kind of built these brews. They're strictly just brews. I mean, they're not tests or anything. But, you know, if you want to go control spells, you could try something like that, where literally you're just going a lot of spells, a lot of removal, a lot of counter spells. And, you know, maybe play 4 copies of Firemind's Research, so you get it out early in the game, and then all of your spells are just so much better because, you know, they're adding charge counters onto Firemind's Research. And when you do that, maybe that could be a win condition. So maybe you have a bunch of like 4, you know, maybe like 2. You're playing with 4 copies of Firemind's Research, but, you know, realistically on the battlefield there'll probably only be like 2 at most, maybe even 3. And then you're casting all these spells, and then all of a sudden you can have that win condition where it deals 5 damage to any target. Now that does require a lot of spells, like 20 plus, maybe even 25 plus spells. So you know, it's a different kind of build of a deck, but it's something you could probably do if you really want to get crazy. And again, like the control style, control combo with Erratic Cyclops. You know, you control the board early in the game, maybe with some lightning strikes and, you know, essence scatters or whatever, and then all of a sudden you drop down the Erratic Cyclops and you're trying to stall the game, and all of a sudden you hit him with a big combo. You know, maybe even play with like Omnispell Adept, where you can ramp out Apex of Power earlier in the game, where you can cast a spell without paying its mana cost. You know, just a lot of crazy stuff that you can do in blue-red, which is a lot of fun. But I'll show you the list that I used for last night for FNM. It was a Wizards kind of aggro tempo deck, and I'll show you that right now. Alright, so I'm going to show you my list for the upgraded Raw deck. I went with the Wizard strategy, so starting off at our 1 slot, 1 mana plays, we have Shock, 4 copies. Going into Viashino Pyromancer, League Guildmage, and Dismissive Pyromancers, we're going to play 4 copies of each. Now, I could have gone with a 1 mana play with Gitu Lava Runner, but I think with Gitu Lava Runner, like especially with us playing with the Izzet Guildgate, and the fact that it doesn't have anything additional going on for it, I don't mind, you know, waiting an additional turn to play these 2 mana 2/2s. Because they also have different impacts. So, of course, you can't attack with the League Guildmage or the Dismissive Pyromancer along with using their abilities, but I just like the fact that, you know, they're wizards and they have, you know, additional effects that you can use in the game, such as drawing a card or actually affecting the board state. And with League Guildmage, you can do something like you can double up your lightning strikes using its copy effect. So, and of course, we're going to play with the 4 lightning strikes. And Adeliz is the one that I really was interested in playing with. Just have the wizard tribal going on for it. So I'm going to play for all 4 copies, even though it is legendary. So, you know, the legendary rule applies. There could be some redundancy if you draw multiple copies of these in your hand. But chances are it's going to get removed anyways. And then, you know, you can just cast your additional Adeliz. We Dragonauts, we're going to keep the 2 that we got from the deck, and we're going to include 3 Wizard's Retort, just to, anticipate if they're going to cast a big spell, maybe we don't play a creature, and, we can counter their something like a Lyra Dawnbringer or something big if we anticipate it. But that's going to be something that, it's not really beginner friendly, because you probably don't know the meta if you are a beginner, but still, just the fact that you have a counterspell and having 3 counterspells in the deck, when the time comes for a big play, like your opponent casts a Teferi or whatever, you can be ready for it. So that's why I wanted to include 3. Included an additional copy of Direct Current. This is essentially our 5th and 6th copies of Shock. Maybe you could even look at it as our 7th and 8th, because it does have the Jumpstart effect to it. But just another version of Shock, and also we have the Jumpstart built into it, and it affects the board state because it's to any target. So we're going to include 2 Narumeha, so an additional kind of Lord effect, so your other wizards get +1/+1. You don't need to trigger it with spells, such as with Adeliz, where you have to trigger it. But Narumeha has a little bit more kind of advanced mechanics, because it does have that flash. So if you have something like, if you cast a Lightning Strike and it's on the stack, you can maintain priority and then flash in your Narumeha on top of that. So when you flash Narumeha on top of the stack, on top of your Lightning Strike, you get an additional copy of it. So it's kind of an additional League Guild Mage in that sense, where we can double up our effects. Well, yeah, it has to be spelled that you control. So, yeah, Chemist's Insight, we're going to keep that 1 copy in there. I thought about including some more, but the fact that we're playing with Rawl's Dispersal and Rawl Caller Storms, and this deck is kind of curved more towards the 2s and 3s, I didn't want to go, too top heavy. So, as far as our mana curve, so we're just going to keep that 1 copy of Chemist's Insight in there, because it is a good card. And, of course, the 2 Rawl's Dispersal and Rawl himself, Raw Caller of Storms. And we chopped down our land base from 26 to 23. We still want to hit that, if we do get Rawl in our hand, we still want to hit our lands. But, we want to chop down our lands so we can squeeze in some more additional stuff. And we also built our curve a little bit to be more, towards the 2s and 3s. So we aren't reliant on, having the 4s and 5s. So having a bunch of mana, 26 lands is a little bit too much. So we chopped some out. And as far as our wizard strategy goes for our curve, again, we built our curve more towards the 2s and 3s, so we kind of leaned it a little bit, forward a little bit quicker. So we have 37 non-lands. As far as our creature count, we only have 20 creatures, but they're all wizards, so that's kind of the payoff. We have 6 kind of Lord effects. We have 4 Adeliz, which is like a semi-pseudo Lord effect, and then we have the 2 Narumehas, who provide the +1/+1 to other wizards no matter what. And the non-creatures, we have 17, including Rawl as a non-creature. So we have about 16, I believe, instants and sorceries to trigger our Adeliz. And also we have 4 Shocks, 4 Lightning Strikes, 2 Direct Currents, so we can actually affect the board. Now, as far as our sideboard, I went with 4 Negates, 4 Syncopates. Now, that might be a little bit too much, but if I'm going against a Teferi deck, I want to shut them out. I just want to, just completely destroy their strategy, really dominate the control matchup with these 8 cards. That's just a meta choice for me, because I know, even against like Golgari decks, I know I'm going to be facing like Planeswalkers. I just want to have these from the sideboard. Fight with Fire, good against 5 toughest creatures. You're probably not going to get the to kick it for 9 mana, but maybe, possibly. But mainly it's going to be used against like things like Aurelia or Lyra. So that's the point of the Fight with Fires. And as far as the other sideboard cards, I had the 2 Dive Downs and 2 Tormenting Voices. Now I probably should have included the 2 Blink of an Eyes. So maybe that was a little bit of a mistake, because Blink of an Eye is actually a pretty good card because it's just a non-land permanent. So maybe that could take the place of Tormenting Voice. I just included the Tormenting Voice against the control matchup if I needed more card draw, but you know, because you know they're going to board wipe you with things like Deafening Clarion or Cleansing Nova or whatever. So if you can get some addition, you can discard a top deck land and then Tormenting Voice, draw some 2 cards to get deeper into your deck. But looking back, chances are I probably should have played with Blink of an Eye just so I can have some additional tempo to bounce like a Teferi back into their hand or something. But yeah, that's the sideboard right there. Now, the total upgrade cost, including the sideboard, was about $12 to $13 according to TCG Player. So our total cost with the $15 for the initial investment into the Planeswalker deck, so we're sitting about what $27, $28, so still below $30. But when you buy into a Planeswalker deck, a lot of the deck is bulk. So as you can see here, the percentage of the deck that we replaced, excluding the lands and excluding the sideboard, which are just additional cards, we replaced 81% of our deck of the Planeswalker deck. So it's kind of unfortunate. Like I said earlier, well, I don't know if I said this earlier, but I said this when I was recording on Friday, the unboxing video, that I wished they included the lightning strikes, or just some lightning strikes, and maybe some shocks, just to have some staples of like mono red for the beginner, just so they can have their hands on these kind of like core staple cards. But unfortunately, we don't really have, when you buy a Planeswalker deck, they're designed to be casual products. They're not designed to be an introduction into F&M standard events. So unfortunately, we had a lot of bulk, but that's okay. But like I said earlier, if you really want to be a budget player, you just buy all the singles. You don't even buy a Planeswalker deck or whatever. And yeah, hopefully you can stick with the mono-colored, because then the land base is really cheap. Because the land base is for dual lands, getting the shock lands or the buddy lands or whatever they're called, the check lands. Those lands are pretty pricey, especially in the Izzet colors. Because a lot of people are playing Izzets right now, as well as Grixis and Jeskai. So yeah, that's the end of this. I'll show you guys the unboxing videos that are recorded for Friday night, before the Friday Night Magic. I had 4 hours that I was trying to plan to release the video, to edit it and everything, record it, and it just still wasn't enough time. So that's why after F&M and on Saturday today, I'm just compiling everything and just kind of releasing it today. So my bad about that. But for Vraska, the next 2 weeks, I'm going to be playing with for week 6. I'm going to be playing a Sunsong and Fire Speaker deck that I saw from Legend VD, and I thought that was a pretty cool deck, so I ordered that. And the week after that, I'm going to be doing the Vraska Planeswalker Deck Challenge from Guilds of Ravnica. So yeah, I'll show you guys the unboxing video. Alright, so here is Raw, Caller of Storms, Planeswalker for Guilds of Ravnica. And yeah, let's unbox this. Really love the packaging on these. These are they're visually just really nice, well put together. I don't know what division handles the packaging, but they did a phenomenal job. I don't know, just the color, everything, the packaging. I mean, if I'm a brand new player, I'm gonna enjoy looking at this just from like off the shelf at a big box store or whatever. But yeah, let's crack this open and take a look inside. Yeah, so again, like, I really enjoy these products simply because, they're casual products, let's face it, and the Planeswalker Deck Challenge I'm doing for myself is just, just for fun. But, after all this is done, I'm going to have, a casual deck that I can just kick around with friends, or brand new players who are new to the game. It's the one thing I don't, oh, there we go. So yeah, I don't want to damage that, but yeah, there's Raw, Caller of Storms. The holo on this isn't particularly amazing. I mean, I guess the lightning effect is kind of cool, but yeah, he's illustrated all right. I do like the fact that he has like a bunch of lightning on him, but I don't know who Raw is as a character, as himself, but he's kind of has that smirk on him. But as far as the card quality, though, it's, as far as the foil, pretty cool. Really enjoy it. And there, that's Raw right there. Here's the deck box. I don't know who said it, but someone said Rawl looks like a Disney character, and I think that's completely true. He does kind of look like a Disney character. And hey, whoa, there we go, 2 booster packs. Forgot about those. Alright, so let's take a look. Here is the before you play, so if you're a brand new player, check that out. Bada boom, bada bang, playing the deck, Raw Color of Storms, Ambitious, Chaotic Brilliance, I like that. Trample, Flying, okay, I think there could be more information packed onto these, but maybe that's a little bit too much. It might overload the beginning player. Of course, an advertisement for MTG Arena. Ooh, there we go. What are Planeswalkers? Hey, this is actually kind of relevant, because that is probably one of the biggest learning curves is, you know, I do remember being brand new and being like, how do Planeswalkers work? So, yeah, I actually learned a lot of my learning how to play from, I think, Budget MTG Decks, or I forgot who, but he has a good tutorial on how Planeswalkers work and just how the game works. But yeah, there's Erratic Cyclops as the face of the deck. You know, I have said that, you know, I really like this card as far as combo potential, but we'll have to see how we make a deck that, you know, could really utilize this guy's power, because I think he's pretty cool. But yeah, let's take a look at the cards. Alright, so, yep, Omnispell Adept. So these two go well together, I think. You may cast without paying its mana cost. Whenever you cast, yeah. So, yeah, maybe I do make a control kind of like combo deck with both of these cards from the Planeswalker deck. But we'll see about that. We only get 1 copy of each of those. 2 Rolls Dispersal. Where's that Leapfrog? Now I am noticing that there's a little bit of curvature. I can just feel it. They're a little bent, but that's okay. Leapfrog, Muse Drake, Passwell Adept. So yeah, we are gonna get a bunch of bulk cards. Yeah, I mean, you know, you gotta understand that these are introductory products, but at the same time, I do wish that there was a little bit more. Like things like Goblin Electromancer, or just like throw in some shocks, throw in some lightning strikes. I mean, they're not, you know, it's just really nice for the beginner to have these kind of core staples if they want to go into like aggro red, or I mean mono red aggro. You know, they can have the lightning strikes as well as the shocks. You know, we Dragonauts really like this card. As a matter of fact, I think I'm gonna build around this card. Alright, and here's just the Guild Gates and a bunch of islands, which I don't think I own Guilds of Ravnica islands or mountains yet, so these are kind of cool. Alright, and let's take a look at, alright, so Chemist's Insight. So I actually like that they divide the creatures, or it's the rares, creatures, and then kind of the uncommon spells back here. So Chemist's Insight is probably the best card as far as non-creature spells that we got. The Direct Current's alright. Precision Bolt, again, we're going to have to replace this. It is a sorcery speed, Lightning Strike. Sonic Assault's alright. Alright, so let's take a look at the first booster pack. And hopefully we get something good. If not, that's okay. We'll just order what we need. Take cards. Mirror Informant. Hey, Capture Sphere. Maniacal Rage, Fire Poisoner, Price of Fame, cool. Goblin Venerate. Oh my god! Yeah, baby! Oh, snap, that's awesome. Got another one, and an Angel oh my. Snap. Okay, let's open the second one. Unfortunately, Assassin's Trophy has gone down in price. I already sold my first one, but, you know, that's good because that'll cover the cost of this Planeswalker deck, which is awesome. Radical Idea. Hey, we can actually throw that in. It's kind of like a mini version of Chemist's Insight, kind of like a worse version. But I have seen this used against me in FNM, so it is seeing play. Fire Spore, Muse Drake, Slithny Locket, Deadweight. Hey, man, this is a pretty awesome pack so far, as like, you know, like if this was like a draft. But yeah, Whispering Snitch. Oh, nice, Sinister Sabotage, could definitely use that. Narcomoeba, dang. Ah, oh well. Yeah. Maybe this is actually seeing stuff in playing in Modern, I think, right? Oh snap, Hollow Mushroom, that's pretty cool. The non-hollow version, if you actually look at the card, it's kind of like the Matrix, you know? It's kind of like this weird... I don't want to say that you can actually see if they're digits or something, but it's kind of like a weird, like, Matrix kind of effect. So that's why I really like the art of this card. But you can't really see it in the hollow version, but... Alright, so, yeah, that was a pretty alright pack. I mean, we got... as far as the deck is concerned, we could use Sinister Sabotage as well as Radical Idea. But yeah, let's move on to actually rebuilding the deck. Okay, so let's take a look at just some cards that I ordered. I ordered a bunch of cards for a bunch of different decks, but as far as cards that I ordered that are relevant to rebuilding the raw Planeswalker deck, let's just take a look. You know, I ordered these off of TCG Player if you wanted to know, but anyways. So yeah, we have 3 Warlords Fury. I think I have a 4th copy somewhere, but this is a card that, yeah, it gives your creatures first strike and you draw a card. You know, you proc that spell effect if you need an instant or sorcery to get the +1, you know, power or +2 power for Wee Dragonauts. Opt, Dive Down. This just gives hexproof, can protect a creature, but I think this is better off in the sideboard than main decking it. I really like Dismissive Pyromancer because it's a cheap wizard and also has just, you know, 2 relevant effects. I mean, you could discard, you know, a land if you draw a land later in the game, and also it can affect the board state by, you know, you have to sacrifice it, pay 3 mana, but, you know, you can kill a 4 toughness creature with it, so. Also, it's a wizard, of course. League Guildmage, you know, got 4 copies because I don't think I have, well, maybe I do have one, but it's in the cube, I don't know. But I ordered 4 copies of League Guildmage because they're super cheap. But this is another, you know, 2 mana, 2/2, but you can draw a card or copy instants and sorceries, so, you know, 4 Lightning Strikes. Actually didn't need to order these because I got my red deck back, but, you know, just decided to order them just in case. Got Blink of an Eye, some Syncopates, Negates, and these are probably going to come from the sideboard. 2 more Wee Dragonauts, Adelies, so we're going to go with a mage kind of build. Fight with Fire, I think I got more copies somewhere else, but yeah, Wizard's Retort, and Naru Meha, which is a Wizard Lord, and also we can flash her in. While a spell is on the stack, we can copy that spell. So, yeah, I think yeah, this is going to prove really well. Let's see how we rebuild the deck. I ordered a bunch of additional cards just because, you know, if you want, you can constantly swap in and out. You know, you need a sideboard, but you can also have a sideboard, if that makes sense, where you have, you know, it's not part of the deck of your 75 cards, but you know, anytime you need to swap things up, you can always have that little stack that you can always, you know, come back to and be like, hey, maybe I need to swap this one out for something else. So it's always good to have a sideboard, if you will.